My boyfriend complained. Other women give their boyfriends $2,000 a month. Why do you only give me $500? I said, interesting comparison. 3 days later, I canceled every transfer, ended the relationship, and watched him realize his lifestyle was never his to begin with. My name is Olivia Carter. I'm 32 years old, and for a year and a half, I truly believed Ethan Brooks and I had a normal, loving relationship. We were not married, not engaged, and we did not live together. He rented a one-bedroom apartment across town, close to the law office where he worked as a legal assistant. I owned a small house on the quieter side of the city and worked as a software developer for a mid-sized tech company. My job was not glamorous, but it paid well because I had worked hard for it, and Ethan knew that from the beginning. 7 months into our relationship, Ethan came over one evening looking exhausted. He sat at my kitchen island, turning a mug in his hands, while explaining that money had become tight. His rent had gone up, his student loans were dragging him down, his credit card debt kept growing, and every month felt like he was barely keeping his head above water. He looked embarrassed when he said it, and because I loved him, I believed him. I offered to help with $500 a month. Not a loan, not something I expected back, just a direct deposit to ease the pressure. He looked at me like I had saved him. Olivia, seriously, he said, reaching for my hand. You're amazing. Thank you. This really helps. For the first few months, it felt like kindness being received the right way. He seemed grateful. He cooked dinner for me twice, brought flowers once, and kept saying he didn't know what he would do without me. At the time, I thought that was romantic. Later, I would realize he meant it more literally than I wanted to admit. The shift was slow. A sigh when he checked his bank account. A complaint about his car payment. A casual mention of someone else's new watch or trip or apartment. Nothing big enough to confront, but enough that I started feeling like every conversation had a quiet price tag attached to it. Then came the dinner. We were at a nice Italian place downtown, the kind with dim lighting, polished tables, and waiters who described pasta like it was art. I was paying, as usual. Ethan had offered at the beginning of our relationship, but over time his offers had become smaller, weaker, easier for me to wave away. While we waited for food, he scrolled through Instagram and turned his phone toward me. It was a photo from his friend group's Sunday brunch. Champagne towers, designer bags on the table, shiny bracelets, perfect lighting. It looked less like brunch and more like an advertisement for a lifestyle nobody wanted to admit was financed by debt. That looks fun, I said. Yeah, Ethan replied, leaning back. You know what's crazy, though? All of them get like $2,000 a month from their girlfriends. Some get more. I put my phone down. What? He shrugged, but his eyes were watching me too closely for it to be casual. I told them you helped me with $500, and they were shocked. What do you mean shocked? They couldn't believe it was that low. Their girlfriends give them money for bills, clothes, gym stuff, savings, $2,000 minimum. I waited for him to laugh. He didn't. I thought the $500 was helping with rent, I said. It helps with everything, but it doesn't really make a difference. I took a sip of water because I needed a second before answering. So what are you saying exactly? He looked down at the table, doing a little embarrassed shrug that might have worked on me a few months earlier. I'm saying if you could do $2,000 a month, that would actually help. I could pay off debt faster, stop stressing so much, maybe enjoy my life a little. $2,000 a month. Your salary is 6 figures, right? You can afford it. That was the sentence that chilled me. Not because it was the cruelest thing he could have said, but because it came out so comfortably. Somewhere between the first $500 and that dinner table, my help had stopped being kindness and become a number he believed he had the right to renegotiate. That's not really the point, I said. Then what is the point? He asked, his jaw tightening. You don't think I'm worth it? I recognized the trap immediately. Either I gave him more money, or I was telling him he had no value. I'm already giving you $500 a month voluntarily, I said. That's $6,000 a year. Now you're telling me it isn't enough because your friends supposedly get more. It's not supposedly. They actually get it. I've seen their lives. You've seen their Instagram? His face flushed. Whatever. I knew you'd react like this. Like someone who doesn't appreciate being compared to other people by how much money they hand over? That's not what I'm doing. That is exactly what you're doing. The waiter brought our food, and for several minutes we ate like strangers. I paid the bill. Ethan let me. Outside, he shoved his hands into his coat pockets and said, I didn't mean to make it a whole thing. But he never apologized. He never thanked me for what I was already doing. He only waited for me to soften. I didn't. Over the next week, Ethan stopped saying 2,000 directly, but every conversation still found its way back to money. He sent listings for apartments he wished he could afford, Photos of friends in Miami, pictures of designer shoes he said he needed for work. Every hint carried the same message: more money, more proof, more sacrifice from me. Then one Thursday night, I stopped by his apartment after work. We had ordered takeout, and halfway through dinner, he pulled out his laptop. "I want to show you something." He opened a color-coded spreadsheet. Income, expenses, red sections, projected shortfalls. At first, I thought he wanted advice. Then I realized he was presenting evidence. "See," he said, "this is why I'm always struggling." I leaned closer and read the categories. $600 a month on skincare and grooming. $700 on dining and entertainment. $800 on shopping. Subscriptions everywhere. Delivery fees everywhere. Luxury spending disguised as survival. "Ethan," I said carefully, "you're spending $600 a month on skincare? That's normal if you buy quality products. And $700 on restaurants? I have to eat." "You don't have to eat $700 worth of restaurant meals." His expression hardened. Not everyone wants to cook every night. I kept scrolling. $800 on clothes every month? I need to look professional. Every month? He folded his arms. "You don't understand." "No, I think I understand perfectly." I closed the laptop. "You built a budget around a lifestyle you can't afford, and now you want me to fund the difference." "I'm asking my girlfriend for help." "I was helping you." "Then why are you acting like I'm using you?" "Because you took help and turned it into an expectation." That finally got through. His face went red, and for a while neither of us spoke. I told him that if the spreadsheet showed rent, groceries, utilities, and student loans crushing him, we would be having a different conversation. But what I was looking at was not survival. It was a lifestyle he wanted me to subsidize. He argued that he was trying to build a better life. I told him a better life could not always mean reaching for someone else's wallet. We went in circles for nearly an hour, until I was too tired to keep explaining something he did not want to understand. When I stood to leave, he followed me to the door. "So what happens now?" I looked at him and realized I did not have a clean answer yet. Part of me still wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding. The other part knew I had seen something I could not unsee. "I don't know," I said. I drove home with his words replaying in my head. "500 isn't enough. My friends get 2,000. You can afford it. You don't think I'm worth it?" By the time I pulled into my driveway, I understood the real problem was not Ethan's budget. It was the fact that he believed I should feel responsible for fixing it. 3 days later, after replaying the conversation until I was sick of hearing it in my own head, I logged into my bank account and canceled the recurring $500 transfer. Then I called him. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, Ethan, I canceled the monthly transfer." At first, he didn't speak. Then his voice sharpened. "You did what?" "I stopped the 500. "You can't just do that. My rent is due next week." "That's exactly why I had to do it now. You're counting on money I never owed you." "You offered to help me." "I offered to help. I did not agree to become part of your income." His breathing changed through the phone. "So you're punishing me because I asked for more?" "No, I'm ending something that stopped feeling voluntary." "You're seriously cutting me off?" "I'm ending the financial support, and I'm ending the relationship." That finally broke the rhythm of his anger. "What?" "We're done, Ethan." "Olivia, come on, you don't mean that." "I do." "You're breaking up with me over money?" "I'm breaking up with you because you tried to make me prove my love by competing with other women's bank accounts. You didn't ask me for help. You made me feel like I was failing an allowance standard." His voice dropped. "I didn't mean it like that." "But you did mean the number. You meant the spreadsheet. You meant the pressure all week." He started talking faster, trying to pull the conversation back under his control. He said I was overreacting, that couples support each other, that he was stressed, that he loved me, that I was turning one argument into the end of everything. I listened longer than I should have, mostly because a piece of me still wanted him to say the one thing that might have mattered. "I'm sorry I made you feel used." He never said it. Instead, he asked, "So what am I supposed to do this month?" Hearing that question told me everything I needed to know. Even then, after all our arguments, he was still focused on what losing my money meant for him. "You're supposed to do what you would have done if we had never met," I said. "Use your paycheck, change your spending, call your landlord, get a roommate, figure it out." "You're really abandoning me." "No, I'm leaving a relationship where my generosity became your expectation." His voice cracked then, and for a second I heard the man I had loved. "Olivia, please." I closed my eyes, but I did not change my answer. "It's over, Ethan. Don't come to my house." Then I hung up. The first messages came less than an hour later. At first they were confused, then angry, then desperate. "The deposit didn't go through. Are you really doing this? We need to talk. You can't just cut me off. I have bills. By lunch the next day, there were dozens of messages. Ethan accused me of being cruel. Then he accused me of financial abuse. Then he said I owed him because he had counted on that money. Reading those words made something inside me go very still. He was not saying he missed me. He was not asking how we had gotten to such an ugly place. He was talking about the payment. I replied once, "We are broken up. Do not come to my house." He came anyway. That evening, my doorbell camera alerted me while I was in the kitchen. Ethan stood on my porch, pounding on the door, hair messy, face flushed, looking more furious than heartbroken. "Open up, Olivia. I know you're in there." I used the speaker. "Go home. We need to talk face to face." "No, we don't. You can't abandon me like this." "I'm not abandoning you. You're a grown man with a job. I stopped giving you money." "My rent is due in 3 days." "Then call your landlord." "My paycheck doesn't cover everything." "Then your lifestyle is too expensive." He stared at the camera like he could not believe I was serious. "You're really going to let me lose my apartment?" "You're not losing it because of me. You're losing it because you built your life around money that wasn't yours." His face twisted, and then the tears started. Real tears, or at least convincing ones. A month earlier, they would have destroyed me. That night, they only made me sadder because I could still hear the question underneath them. How could you do this to me financially? My neighbor came out 2 doors down and asked if everything was okay. Ethan immediately turned toward him. "She's kicking me out," he said. I spoke through the doorbell speaker before my neighbor could react. "He does not live here. He's my ex-boyfriend, and I've asked him to leave." My neighbor's expression changed. "You should go, man." Ethan looked back at the camera with humiliation burning across his face. "This isn't over." He left, but it was not over. For the next 2 weeks, people connected to him started reaching out. One of his friends called me heartless. Another said Ethan was devastated and couldn't pay his bills. His father sent me a message saying I had led his son to believe he could count on my support. I replied with the simplest version of the truth. I helped him voluntarily. He asked for more by comparing me to other people, and I stopped. His father did not like that answer, but I was done trying to make the situation sound prettier than it was. The most frustrating call came from Jessica, one of Ethan's closest friends. She did not even say hello. "What the hell is wrong with you?" "Nice to hear from you too." "He's falling apart." "I'm sorry he's upset." "Upset? He can't pay his bills?" "He spends $800 a month shopping and $700 eating out." "You're blaming him for struggling?" "I'm blaming him for pretending luxury spending is survival." She scoffed. "He said he only asked for help. He showed me a spreadsheet and asked me to quadruple what I was already giving him because his friends supposedly get more." Jessica went quiet just long enough for me to know he had not told her that part. "He didn't say it like that," she finally muttered. "I'm sure he didn't." After that, I stopped answering most calls. Ethan eventually stopped coming to my house, but his attempts to stay in my life didn't end there. Within a week, I started noticing him in places he had never gone before. At first, I told myself it was coincidence. The gym once, my usual coffee shop once, a wine bar my friends and I liked on Fridays, then the bookstore near my office. Each encounter alone could be explained. Together, they formed a pattern. One afternoon, I was reading emails at the coffee shop near work when he walked in and stopped like he had been surprised to see me. The performance was too thin. "Are you following me?" I asked before he could sit. He forced a laugh. "No. This place is nowhere near your apartment or your office." "I was in the area." "For what?" He did not answer quickly enough. I gestured to the chair across from me. "Sit down." He sat, relieved. For 10 minutes we talked about nothing. Work, traffic, some restaurant opening downtown. It felt like both of us were pretending to be normal because neither wanted to admit how strange the situation had become. Finally, he leaned forward. "I miss you." I stirred my coffee. "I miss parts of what we had." "You don't miss me?" "I miss the version of us that didn't make me feel like a payment plan." His face tightened. "You're acting like I committed some horrible crime." "No, I'm acting like someone who realized her boyfriend started treating generosity like a subscription." He looked down, and for the first time his anger seemed to drain out of him. "I made a mistake." Those were the words I had wanted to hear for weeks, but by then they did not land the way they would have before. Not because I wanted to be cold, because the apology was arriving after the consequences, while the behavior was still happening. Before I could respond, Jessica walked into the cafe and came straight toward us. The timing was too convenient to ignore. She sat beside him and looked at me like she had been invited to be a witness. "He loves you," she said. "He's miserable." I looked between them and finally understood how carefully Ethan had edited the story. His friends knew the version where I stopped helping and he fell apart. They did not know about the comparison, the spreadsheet, the pressure, the demand for $2,000, or the fact that he had shown up at my house after being told not to. That may be what he told you, I said, keeping my voice calm, but I'm not going to defend myself against a version of events that leaves out half the truth. Jessica opened her mouth, then closed it. Ethan stared at the table. I stood, picked up my bag, and left them sitting there. Over the next month, life began to quiet down. Daniel and I had stayed friendly after the breakup. Unlike most of our mutual friends, he never pressured me to take Ethan back and never tried to convince me I was being unfair. That was probably why I trusted him more than anyone else who was still connected to both of us. That made him one of the few people I still trusted to tell me the truth. Not completely, but enough that I could breathe again. I blocked the people who kept calling. I stopped explaining myself. I let the relationship end in reality, even if Ethan kept trying to keep it alive through guilt. Then, about 6 weeks after the breakup, I went to a mutual friend's birthday party. I knew Ethan might be there. I told myself I could handle it. What I did not expect was for him to arrive with a woman I had never met, tall, polished, confident, and clearly positioned to be seen. He stayed close to her all night, laughing louder than necessary, glancing toward me every few minutes to check whether I was watching. I did notice. I just did not react. That bothered him more than anger would have. Later, near the hallway by the restrooms, he cornered me. "You're not even going to ask?" "Ask what?" He nodded toward the woman at the bar. "About her. I assume she's your girlfriend." "She is." "Okay." His smile faltered. "Okay. What response are you looking for?" He straightened, almost like he remembered the line he had been waiting to deliver. "She's amazing. She treats me really well." "I'm glad. She actually values me." "That's good." His eyes searched my face. When he realized I was not giving him jealousy, he finally said it. "She gives me $1,500 a month." I looked at him for a few seconds. Not hurt, not jealous, just amazed that he still thought this was the way to win something. "Okay," I said. "That's it? What do you want me to say?" He looked irritated. "I thought you'd care." "I hope you're happy, Ethan." I walked away before he could turn it into another argument. 20 minutes later, Daniel, one of the few mutual friends who had stayed neutral, found me near the back patio. He lowered his voice and said, "Don't react, but that $1,500 a month thing Ethan told you is not true." I glanced toward the bar. "How do you know?" "I know her from work. They go out. She pays for drinks sometimes. They split dinners sometimes. Normal dating stuff. She is not giving him cash every month." I laughed before I could stop myself, not because it was funny, but because it made the entire performance make sense. The glances, the confidence, the hallway confrontation. Ethan had not moved on. He had staged a scene to make me feel like I had been replaced by someone more generous. Oddly enough, learning that he had lied made it easier to move on. Until then, a small part of me had wondered whether I'd been too harsh. That lie answered the question for me. People do not invent imaginary allowances to make their ex jealous when they are truly happy. They do it when they are still trying to win an argument they already lost. After the birthday party, the harassment finally started fading. The calls stopped first. Then the surprise appearances. Then the mutual friends stopped acting like I owed everyone a public explanation. The silence felt strange at first, because I had grown used to bracing for the next message, the next accusation, the next person telling me Ethan was suffering and somehow making it my responsibility. When the quiet finally came, I realized how exhausted I had been. I started sleeping better. My house felt like mine again. I cooked dinner without checking my phone every 5 minutes. I went to the gym without scanning the entrance. I sat in coffee shops and actually tasted my coffee. Peace did not arrive like fireworks. It arrived as small, ordinary moments that no longer had Ethan's chaos attached to them. Every now and then, I heard updates through Daniel. I never asked for them, but people talk, especially after a breakup that had pulled so many others into its orbit. The first update was that Ethan had moved out of his one-bedroom apartment. He could not afford it without someone quietly helping cover the gap, so he found a cheaper place with 2 roommates. The rent dropped hard, and so did the image he had worked so carefully to maintain. A few weeks later, Daniel mentioned Ethan had sold his car. The payments were too high. He bought something older, cheaper, less impressive. I remembered all the times he had complained about that car payment while also spending hundreds on clothes, restaurants, and grooming. The car leaving his life felt less like a tragedy and more like math finally catching up with him. Then came the weekend work. Catering events, private parties, wedding receptions, long shifts carrying trays and cleaning up, after people who could afford the kind of lifestyle he had wanted to copy. I do not say that with cruelty. Honest work is honest work. What struck me was that he had been capable of solving his financial problems all along. He could earn more, he could spend less, he could adjust. He just had not wanted to do any of that while my bank account was easier to reach than his own discipline. The lifestyle disappeared piece by piece. The apartment he wished he had, the car he could barely afford, the brunches and shopping trips and little luxuries he had treated like necessities. Reality did not destroy him. It simply forced him to live inside his actual income. Looking back, what stayed with me wasn't the fact that Ethan struggled financially. It was realizing he had always been capable of fixing those problems himself. What he resisted wasn't the work. It was accepting responsibility for the consequences of his choices. By the time I pushed back, he had already convinced himself that my support was part of the relationship instead of a gift I had been freely giving inside it. Once I understood that distinction, the guilt finally loosened its grip. A few months after the breakup, I started dating again. Nothing dramatic. Coffee with someone a friend introduced me to. Then dinner. Then a Saturday afternoon walk that turned into 3 hours of conversation. He had his own job, his own bills, his own complicated life. He never asked what I made. He never hinted. He never turned dinner into a test of generosity. One night he paid for dinner. The next time I did. Neither of us announced it like a moral victory. Nobody kept score. Nobody used the check as proof of love. We just enjoyed each other's company, and that felt so normal it almost made me emotional. Sitting across from him, I finally had enough distance from the breakup to see what had actually hurt. I wasn't mourning only Ethan. I was mourning the future I thought we were building together, and the version of our relationship that had existed before money started poisoning everything. But the longer I sat with it, the clearer it became that all those versions had existed together. Ethan could be affectionate and entitled, charming and manipulative, hurt and still unfair. People are rarely one thing, and that is what makes leaving them difficult. You are not just walking away from the worst parts. You are walking away from the good parts too, because the good parts cannot erase the pattern. The last update I heard came almost 6 months after we broke up. Ethan and the woman from the birthday party had ended things. According to Daniel, money had become an issue there too. I was not surprised. Some lessons do not land the first time because people are too busy blaming the person who finally said no. As for me, the $500 I used to send every month stayed in my investment account. My savings grew. My stress dropped. My home felt peaceful again. More importantly, I stopped confusing love with responsibility for someone else's bad choices. People can call me cruel if they want. Some probably did. Maybe some still do. But it was never about the amount. If Ethan had come to me and said, "I'm struggling. Can we sit down and build a budget together?" I would have helped him. I would have opened spreadsheets, made calls, cooked cheaper meals with him, helped him plan. I loved him enough for that. What I could not do was let him turn my love into a monthly obligation and then shame me for not paying enough. In the end, money was never the real issue between us. The problem was entitlement. Maybe Ethan will keep looking for someone willing to fund the lifestyle he wants. As for me, I found something far more valuable after walking away. Peace, and the freedom to be loved without feeling like I owed someone a monthly payment.